You recognize the names of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. They are the architects of Western logic. Yet for all their enduring influence, the physical parchment they actually touched was nearly erased from the record of history. The data loss was extreme. For Aristotle, only 15% of his total work survived to the present day. For the pre-Socratic thinkers who came before him, we are left with almost nothing, just fragments of complete ideas. This erasure accelerated when the Western Roman Empire collapsed in 476 AD. As infrastructure crumbled, Europe entered a state of emergency. When trade stops and food becomes scarce, abstract questions about ethics or the nature of existence lose their priority to the immediate need for survival. As the Church became the primary guardian of European knowledge, it acted as a filter. They preserved what could be reconciled with theology, but much of the original Greek thought, steeped in a world of pagan gods, was left to decay in neglected libraries, or was actively rewritten to fit a Christian lens. This creates a central tension in our history. If the centuries following Rome's fall either destroyed or heavily modified these classical blueprints, how did Renaissance thinkers eventually find the original ideas they needed to build the modern world? To find the source, we have to look across the Mediterranean. While Europe was contracting, the rapid expansion of the Islamic Empire was uncovering the libraries of the old Byzantine territories. These desert outposts held the remnants of the Greek texts that Europe had forgotten. In Baghdad, the pursuit of knowledge took on a unique character. Under the Islamic Golden Age, seeking information was viewed as a spiritual obligation, a way to understand the underlying order of God's universe. This cultural mandate fueled a sweeping translation effort. Scholars from different faiths, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, worked in the same halls to convert Greek, Persian, and Indian concepts into Arabic. This era of scholarship anchored Western philosophy to a new home. By archiving and studying these texts, the Arab world ensured that the foundations of logic survived the period of greatest risk. The Arab scholars were not passive librarians. They interrogated the ancient texts, corrected mathematical errors, and expanded on the logic they found. One of the most influential figures was Avicenna. He looked at the fragmented medical observations of the Greco-Roman world and systematically organized them into a unified, evidence-based system that became the global standard for medicine. Avicenna also challenged the boundaries of the mind. He proposed a thought experiment. Imagine a human suspended in a dark, silent void. Without sight, sound, or physical sensation, would they still possess an awareness of their own existence? Avicenna concluded they would. He argued that consciousness is independent of physical sensation. It was a logical proof of the self that anticipated the famous insights of European philosophy by several centuries. While Avicenna explored the mind, the scholar Averroes dedicated his life to the mechanics of logic, focusing on the works of Aristotle. Aristotle's surviving notes were often disconnected. Averroes painstakingly reconstructed them into a single, cohesive system. He showed how logic provides the method, physics explains nature, and ethics governs how we live together. Avicenna and Averroes did more than preserve the past. They refined it. Their work provided the comprehensive intellectual framework that the eventual Western scientific revolution would depend on. The question is how these refined Arabic texts found their way back into a fractured medieval Europe. The exchange was driven by the proximity of war and commerce. The Crusades and the trade routes of the Mediterranean created vibrant, multilingual hubs in places like Sicily and Spain. In these markets, Greek, Arabic, and Latin were used side by side. When these annotated translations crossed into Europe, they created a sudden demand for a new kind of expertise. Europe needed professionals capable of translating, analyzing, and applying this advanced logic to public life. This demand for higher learning coincided with the rise of the university system. While institutions like Bologna, Paris, and Oxford had complex legal and religious origins, the arrival of Arabic texts provided the advanced curriculum in logic and mathematics that redefined their educational standards. In cities like Florence, banking and merchant elites began funding this new scholarship to demonstrate their own power and prestige. This financial support paved the way for humanism, the study of history, ethics, and poetry, as a means of improving human society. The polymaths we associate with the Renaissance, like Leonardo da Vinci, were the product of this environment. Their pursuit of universal knowledge was built directly on the foundation of these imported texts. Significant scientific shifts also traced back to this source. When Nicolaus Copernicus removed the Earth from the center of the universe, he did so using astronomical calculations that had been refined by Islamic scholars generations earlier. The Renaissance represented a reunion. The logic and scientific curiosity that define the modern world were kept alive by the Arab scholars who chose to open those dusty Greek manuscripts and safeguard their contents for the future.